Hello, people. We got the new software up and running, and I'm working on little details to this knife before I get it mounted. Doing some little trimming details. I might not work on this the whole session, but while people are still signing in and we're figuring out what's going on, I'm just going to be refining the base and other spots just so it fits into this handle a little bit better. And after that, maybe I will return to woohoo! This light falling down. This is a high-tech, big budget production, as you can tell. Return to this piece that I had started yesterday. Just to make a little bit more progress on that, maybe. But yeah, I've got a weird little bump right here that I'm trying to go after. So I just need to make the edge a little bit more dull. And then break out the big pressure flaker. I got a new tool, by the way. This is a different indirect tool, which actually has some potential to be what I should use. But since I am not practiced with it, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to resist that temptation because I am too fond of how far I've gotten with this piece. So I'm going to try and play it a little bit more conservative than that. I really should have organized my stuff before I turned broadcast on, but I suppose people always need a little time to find it and decide they want to watch. All right, I think I got what I need. I need to get my hand pad. And I need to get the big pressure flaker, put it on my spot, build up tension, and then let it break. Here we go. Yeah, that's what I needed. Okay, I'm going to braid and do a couple more of those. And with luck, just a little bit of luck, take care of that fat spot down there. Let's see, how about right there? Slipped off. There we go. Yes, I'm getting rid of that fat little bump that's been down there at the bottom for ages now. Oh, that is so much better. Right down here. Oh, now the spot below it looks still a little fat, but that is a much more conventional, much more reasonable little spot to take down. That lump, it was kind of a bit of a step fracture, and getting rid of it was, I will admit, stressing me out a little bit. Just wasn't really sure how it was going to go, but it went just fine. Took that, it was right here, bit of a step fracture right there, creating a big lump. So that's gone now, and that was a problem because I'm trying to prepare it to fit into this handle, and that was really preventing it from going down all as far as it needs to. So I'm just going to go and try and find some of the rest of the spots that are like that, and thin them out as needed. Braid the surface a little bit. Hey, what's up, Bow Dragon? Zoom in. Zoom in. I'm trying to make the font a little bigger. Oh, it's working. That way. Hey, Samantha. How you doing? Let's see. I was able to get that piece off. Now I can trim some other stuff down there. Yeah, that was great. That's one of my last like big, I don't know, hang-ups that was weighing on my mind about this piece. Coming along well, and here's the white-tailed deer antler that I found in my bunch of supplies. I cut this section out because it had this wide section up here. And I used the bandsaw to make this slot. And it still doesn't quite fit in there. Oh, but it's getting way closer. Oh, it's much closer. Yeah, you're almost right there, Samantha. It's a flint knapped knife that I made the same way that arrowheads were made. I do have some arrowheads right here that I made using that process. So just a bigger, it's like a big giant arrowhead that I'm going to make into this, primitive Stone Age style knife. Here's another one. This one's got a kind of a curved handle. This new one's just got this big straight handle. Just a different style that have been made through history, prehistory, going back a long way. Yeah, that almost fits. So I just need to do, I don't know, a little bit more trimming. Or maybe I just open this hole up just a tiny bit, this slot. Maybe I open up that a little bit, but almost there. That's exciting. That's exciting. I can start thinking about the final stages of gluing this. I use pitch glue. That's glue from natural materials, from pine tree and charcoal. And then I wrap it with a natural material to hold it in there. That's how this one was done. There's a slot. If you can see a black material, oh yeah, here, right here. That's the pitch glue. And then sinew, which is tendon. It's wrapped around because it's very strong and it sticks to itself. That's gonna be cool. Oh my goodness, I'm excited. I don't get to finish too many projects, so it will feel really good. It'll feel really good to have made something this big. Oh, I see. That flute that I made is kind of acting as the stop. Huh. Well, the notch goes down about another, eighth of an inch. Yeah, Samantha, totally. Here's some obsidian I worked right here. This material is called chert. So it's very similar. It's not quite as brittle as obsidian. Also not quite as sharp, but they both have their pluses and minuses, and I like them both. I tend to work with the chert, a little bit more often. Oh, that's exciting. I'm getting real close to being able to mount this. And it'll be a finished thing. And then I should probably make a sheath for it. I don't know if there's much that I can do about that. I've got the remains of this flute right here. See this line? And that's where the piece is stopping. I don't know that I want to try to get that off. It's pretty far in there. So I might call that kind of good. And then all that this will need is some last little finishing flakes. And if I want to put a serrated edge on it, I could do that. I don't have to make that decision now, so I probably won't make that decision now. All right, well, I'm going to set this aside, but I'm going to have it around to show people who've been following along. I've been working on this for a couple days. Yeah, I've given some of my stuff to just to friends and family. Yeah, a few things, a few little things. Not too many. Oh, I can't tell you how excited I am about that. this getting close to a finished project. This is definitely the biggest knife that I've made. And that's really good. Not really because the knife is big, but because when it gets dull, the way you resharpen it is to press off more flakes. And when you do that, it gets smaller. So you start with a big knife, basically, so that you can resharpen it more times and use it for longer. So that's just exciting. I'm going to leave that up there. Maybe go back to this chunky piece of dacite that I was working yesterday. This started off as a chunk about like that. So you can see I've gotten it much smaller without losing too much of the length. The length is just a little bit shorter, but I've gotten it much, much thinner. And I'm starting to bring this into more of a regular shape for even a knife blade or an arrowhead, or I suppose a spear point, but yeah, it probably could be. But all right. All right. So where are we with this thing? We're still doing percussion. We're still using the percussion to knock flakes off, but the tools are getting smaller. And we're doing some pressure flaking along the way as well. There's a good little flake. There's another one. Good. So we got some of this section flattened out. There's a piece back here that really needs it. Let's see. Oh, doesn't want to break. Oh, it's making me nervous. I'm going to weaken it a little bit from the opposite side so it's not... That should help. All right, let's try it again now that I've made it weaker. Yep, that made a big difference. Okay, good. Okay, good. Hey there, Cho. How are you? Cho has been my instrumental technical advisor on the stream lately. Very helpful. Shout out to Cho. Hey, Lawrence, you too. Good to see you. And Bubbles as well. Look at that. We got the regulars all here. Made a little bit more progress on fitting this blade I've been working on to this antler handle. I got rid of a few wide bumps at the bottom. Oh, thanks for the like. Yeah, please. I can use all the love I can get over here. But I made the base a little thinner, opened up the notch in the antler a little bit, and it is almost seating all the way down. Almost. I think you can see the little gap of white of open space in there. But that can be filled with the pitch glue. So I probably will figure out a way to get it all the way down. Well, maybe not, but it doesn't have to. It'd be nice if it did. But any gaps that are left will be filled with the pitch glue. And then I'll probably file or sand a notch, or basically sand this area down to a line where the blade ends on both sides of the antler. Just a little bit of a recess so that then I can wrap it with either artificial sinew or real sinew. I have both. And that blade will be mounted. Definitely the biggest I've ever made, and that's great because that means it can be resharpened many times before it turns into a stubby little funny thing and not exactly a knife anymore. So yeah, happy with that progress. Just going back to this piece of dacite I was working on yesterday. Starting to break out the smaller tools. Oh, I broke it. Even using the smaller tools. Let's see. I'll see. Here's the unfortunate occurrence. What did I do? I had it right there. Yeah. I would say that I hadn't focused on bringing this platform lower and supporting it well enough underneath. So even though I wasn't hitting it hard, just a little bit of carelessness, and I broke it. This is still big enough to make an arrowhead out of later. So all is not lost, but I'm not gonna do that. I have a bajillion, million, trillion arrowheads, so I'm just gonna set that aside for a future use and focus on something else. Yeah, Cho, exactly. This is pitch glue. And the way I made it was by mixing the sap, the pitch from a pine tree, along with crushed and powdered charcoal from the fire, and then a little bit of rabbit droppings, dried rabbit droppings to provide a fiber. So this is very historically / prehistorically accurate. It's not the only type of glue that has been used throughout history, but it's one of them, and it's very common to the general area in which I live. Yeah, I just didn't have that supported quite well enough. That's unfortunate, but it's definitely part of it. It's one of those lessons that you just have to keep learning. It definitely doesn't, I don't remember how many days ago it was, but I had this thing going. Look at the size of that biface. Oh, so this could have been a knife as big as the one I'm about to finish. That hurt. I'll admit it. That hurt. I was definitely not whoops. I was definitely not thrilled with that development. But anyway, pick something new to do. I have another piece of that about the same size. I could just jump back into this piece of dacite. About the same size as the one I started with yesterday and that I just broke. So as usual, starting fresh, a piece this size is called a spall. It was spalled off from a much bigger piece. The first thing I'm going to need to focus on are a couple things. Getting rid of this rough area, which is called cortex. This is the original rock. And then anywhere along the edge that I've got like these right angles. See how this is like right angles to the bottom? This is not a suitable surface for me to hit. No. So I need to come at this from various angles, and in order to make them more like this, slanted on both sides. Ultimately, when you look down the end of this thing, it should look like a lens. Yeah, Ishii's story is kind of incredible. If you haven't already, if you don't know the story of Ishii, the last of the Yahi tribe, there is a book called Ishii in Two Worlds, which I recommend. The book or the audiobook are both good. He was a wealth of information. And it's nice that at least some of the... he could give, firsthand accounts of some of the information and knowledge from his people. All right. So I always, for those who don't know, I always want to be hitting on a side that has a slope like this. So I'll be hitting like this in order to take a flake off from below. And I'll do the whole pencil trick if I can find my pencil. No, I don't see it. Of course. Oh, that's too bad. It's got to be right here, but I don't want to hold things up with looking for a pencil. But basically, I'm going to hit here, opposite this ridge, this spine of rock. So what I can anticipate is that the flake I make will come down, follow that spine. Okay? And hopefully I'll be able to catch it so that you can see it, and you can see that, well, we'll just see how well I do. But developing this skill is about being able to set up your hit and then make a hit that takes off a flake that is more or less what you're expecting, right? Because you can't just hit anywhere on a rock and expect to get this. No, you've got to know how it breaks. And that's what this art is all about. This craft is knowing how the rock breaks. That sounded pretty good. All right, it broke into a couple pieces. That's fine. The flake, so as I said, I hit here, and it took off that right along the spine that I was talking about. And fortunately for me, it made another spine right next to it. So this is, and actually it's kind of long. So this would be a great place for me to go next. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. For those who are just joining, my name is Doug North. I like making things from the past. I like learning about them and using them and appreciating them and sharing that whole process with you. It's something I do here live on the stream, and it's something I do in my long form videos on my channel. All right. Do I want the biggest one? I think I do. I want to put a good amount of force into this so that that flake is nice and long. Yeah. Give you another close-up of that. All right. So I hit right here. Boom. The top of the beginning of the flake just broke off, but then it removed that. And as we can see from the scar it's left, it went almost all the way across. That's a really good thing for me. That means I'm effectively thinning this piece, because if I want to make that chunky thing into an arrowhead or knife, it's got to get a lot thinner. And next time I get like a really classic flake, I will, I'll tell you about it, and I'll tell you what to look for. If you can identify a flake, that you have a better chance of finding artifacts on the ground. And also, you'll know when you're doing things right. You don't always get a perfect flake, but if you do, it's just reinforcement that you're doing things well. Okay, couple hits and nothing broke. I'm going to stop. it means this is too strong. I was trying to hit right here in order to take a flake off down here. But this area is too strong. It's too reinforced. And so if I just keep hitting at it and it doesn't break, all I'm doing is introducing a lot of stress and like minute weak points into the rock. And that's just going to mess me up later. So it's better to take a step back, approach it from another angle, stop abusing the stone and not making progress. So I mentioned I need to get rid of these right angles. So how do you do that? Well, basically you come from somewhere where there is a slope that's appropriate to hit. So say right here, I'll hit here, and that will take off a flake down below. And then hopefully I can flip it over and take another one. So I can sort of advance in a zigzag way along the edge of the rock. Right, so that went according to plan. I hit right here, and that took off this. Now I can flip it over and see how I have a brand new, this is the flake scar from what I just took off, and I have a brand new low spot right here. So if I hit here, sort of in this direction, I should take off a flake right there. And that's what I'll try and do. Nope, I just lost my place because I'm flipping the rock around. Okay, right here. All right, the flake crumbled into a lot of pieces, but it did come from right there. So I'm starting to make this zigzag, this wavy line. So now I can rotate a little bit, flip it over, and hit at this low spot to take some off from here. So I'll repeat this process all the way around. Hey, one with the bears. Yeah, this is actually a dacite. Very similar to chert. Here's a knife I'm making out of Georgetown chert. Getting close to done with it. Been working on this for a few days. But yeah, it's dacite. All right. Let's see. Go right here. Here we go. Nice long flake. Flip it over. Find the low spot. Made a little one. I might hit it in that same spot again, just to make it a little bigger. Good. Now flip it over. Find the low spot. And as you can see, as you continue to do this, you make this wavy edge. But all of those are in some way suitable for continuing to work, because anywhere there's a low point, that can be a platform that you hit. And where there's a high point, if you flip them over, they are then low points where you can hit. So I've still got to get rid of what? This stuff. This weird 90-degree edge. But I'm getting there. So far, so good. Some people call this process right here zippering the edge or zigzagging, because you're making that wavy edge and because you're like flipping it over with every hit. Let's see, I'm going to come at it from this side. Small flake. Okay. A little bit bigger. Is that good? Sure. Flip it over. Another small one. Flip it over. Here we go. Oh, all right. Remember I said I was going to stop when there was a classic flake? I'll show you a little bit about it. This will hopefully illustrate some of the key purposes. Hey, I got a haircut. Hey, oh, now it's all messed up. I guess I should keep wearing my hat. It looked good a while ago. Now it looks ridiculous. All right. So I hit here. Boom. And that knocked off this flake here. This flake is kind of classic. If you This fat area here, where it's kind of swollen, that's called the bulb of percussion. So I hit here, boom. That sends a shock wave into the rock, and it's most intense right where it's hit, closest to where it's hit, and that creates that bulb. And then the force spreads out. What remains of the force spreads out, and if things are set up appropriately, it spreads and breaks the stone thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner until it pops out the flake. And so that's kind of a classic flake. And just to let you know, the edges left by these flakes are crazy sharp. So these are picked up all the time to use as slicing tools. This is a better slicing tool than this. This has its uses. This is worth making, but the flakes that come off are super sharp. Let me give you a demo. See this thick leather? Let's see. Got to do it on this side. That's thick leather. That's really tough stuff. So even the waste products are tools. And in fact, when you knock off a good flake, that's the sharpest tool that you can make from stone. And almost from anything. If you knock off a good flake from obsidian, it's ridiculously sharp. It is so sharp. All right, where are my tools? What do I want? This one. So I'm almost around the whole edge, getting rid of that weird right angle stuff. A few more hits here and there. And I'll get rid of that. Here, that should do it. So no more of that cortex on the edges or the surfaces. So that's sort of the very first stage in cleaning or just working on a piece. I guess maybe you could consider the process we didn't see of spalling. So whoever knocked off the piece that I had originally from a much larger piece, that's probably the very first stage. And this is kind of the second. Getting rid of the cortex and making the entire edge workable. There are actually formal names for the different stages. I can look them up for you. I'm probably referring to them correctly, but maybe not. Oh, hold on. Maybe this book has them. I think maybe this book does have them. Yeah. Check it out. Check it out. Here are the stages. Yeah, so what I just did is stage 2 up here. I took the cortex off, or maybe stage 3. Yeah. No, I don't know. I'm torn. I think it's more like stage 2, edging. Yes, I made the edge workable. So stage 1 here. Stage 2, edging. They've gone all the way around to make sure that you could work on every edge of the material. And now next, stage 3 is called primary thinning. So I'll be working on removing a lot of the mass from the stone in order to thin it. So I'll be taking pretty big flakes in order to thin this thing down. That's from a book by a famous flint knapper whose name was Eric Callahan. He was very, very, very good at this and very knowledgeable. I did not know him. He's passed away. I did not know him, but I have friends who knew him. I have friends that studied with him. All right, so I've got a lot of opportunities here. I'll be looking for low spots, especially if they lead into spines or big masses below. Atlas, that's a great question. At the level of proficiency that I'm at, I'm still most interested in developing my skill to thin a piece effectively. So I don't usually start with something in mind. I sort of go, follow these stages, see how thin I can get it, and what remains when I have it reasonably thin. And then say, wow, I managed to keep a lot of the length. I suppose this could be a big spear point, or this could be a big knife. The difference between the two being not much, being how you use it. So I tend to more just work on the process, and then when I get to one of the later stages, see what I have left and see what it could be based on its size and shape. That's just me, and that's just where I happen to be with my skill level. I have friends who are so good at this, they pick up a rock and they know exactly what they want to make, and then they go ahead and make it. So it's just where you happen to be and how you happen to approach it. I could look at this and say, I'm making a knife. Okay, I'm making a knife. It wouldn't change much of what I'm doing during the first many stages. I would do the same thing anyway. But I tend to just say, all right, I just need to make this thin, regular, preserve the length as much as I can, so it's as big of a tool, gives me the most options. But I generally just work, I sort of work on the skills and the general initial processes first. And then at the end sort of say, oh, okay, this could be something. But that's just my approach based on where I'm at. Okay. I'm also starting to think about, like, where is the center of this piece? And if I imagine a center, then which areas are already, like, way far from that center? And if they're already really far from the center, they're probably not going to remain. And if they're near the edge, then I probably should go ahead and get rid of them now. And I'm feeling that way about this very low point on this edge. So if this is the length that I'm trying to preserve, then I need to probably just trim this off. Yes, Joe. Well, to a degree. And it depends on, when you say prehistoric man, it depends on how far back you're talking, because prehistory is very long. But for the most part, we have a pretty good idea based on, ethnographic evidence from people who are still doing this, or that, historically we could see doing this. And also the tools themselves become artifacts. The tools to do flint knapping become artifacts. So here, for example, is one of my hammer stones. This just takes the place of this. These do the same thing. Now take a look at the wear on that stone. All this in here, all this pitting. That's because that's where I've chosen to hit with. And you can find, or archaeologists can find, hammerstones that have pitting all the way around a surface. So that's one way we know. And then historically, prehistorically, antler was used a lot. And these have been found as well. I don't know how far back we have evidence of antler billets, like in the archaeological record. I imagine it goes farther back than we have evidence of, probably because these decayed. It's possible some could have fossilized along with the fossilized remains of hominin ancestors. I don't remember ever reading about that. That would be super cool to say find an Homo habilis fossil along with stone tools, along with the tools used to make the tools. But to my knowledge, that has not happened. Does this sort of stone have a natural weak lines throughout where it's likely to break, or is it generally homogeneous? Excellent question, Atlas. So what you're asking about is a property of the stone. In geology, the difference between a stone that has cleavage and one that has fracture. Stones that have cleavage have a molecular structure or a crystalline structure in which there are preferred lines of breakage. So it's weak along certain lines. So if you break it, it likes to break along those lines. So that would be very bad for what we're trying to do, because we wouldn't be able to predict the shape of the breaks. So the type of stone that we do want has a property called fracture. So it's very homogeneous. It's very uniform on the inside. It's still made up of crystals, but they're just super, super tiny and uniformly bonded together. So that when we apply force to it, boom, that force moves through it in a very regular way, and then breaks out a flake in ways that we can anticipate. So yes, the answer is very, very fine crystalline structure, usually high in silica, so that it has the property of fracture, so it's very homogeneous, and therefore has the property of fracture. Like glass, dacite, chert, obsidian, some jaspers, chalcedony, some agates, some fossilized corals, many others. But they're high silica rocks, and they all have the property of fracture. You can still make stone tools out of rocks that don't have fracture. For instance, slate. Slate does not have fracture. It has layer upon layer that it's metamorphic, but anyway, it's just layer upon layer as it formed, and it will want to break along those lines. So you can't flint knap it. The forces will go through those layers and break there. But what you can do is grind it. You can grind slate to shape and still make useful stone tools, but you just don't flint knap it. So it's if you want flint knapping material, you need that homogeneous crystalline structure that has the characteristic of fracture. Yeah, antlers are good tools. Apparently horn is not really appropriate usually. Antlers are more dense. This is a moose billet. That's my largest natural. And then I've got them in various sizes. That's my next largest, and that's one of my smallest. Some great questions tonight. I'm digging it. Really good questions. Where's my abrader? There it is. Move my hammer stone. Okay. Okay, got rid of that low spot over there. Brought the center line up higher. Cho, is heat ever used to help results? Yes. Many forms of stone benefit from a process called heat treating. This dacite has not been heat treated. This chert has not been heat treated. I don't think you ever heat treat obsidian. Here's a stone called Keokuk. This is Keokuk chert. This has been heat treated. So it's kind of, it's a little more coarse and less fine grained than the other ones that I just mentioned. And so by bringing it up to a specific temperature and holding it there, and allowing it to cool, its flint knapping properties improve. And that's true of a bunch of stones. I've never personally done heat treating, but it is a well-known process for improving the workability of a number of different types of flint knapping materials. It's pretty cool to think about, like, who figured that out? You know, they were flint knapping, and they're like, this rock isn't that great. Well, I'm going to throw it in the fire. And then the next day they saw it, and it's like, let me try it again. And it was way better. I guess when you've got enough time, humans doing random and curious things over enough time, you will figure all kinds of stuff out. I think that time component is what messes up a lot of people. And I think, how could anybody have come up with this? Or how could they have built Stonehenge? Well, they weren't worried about, like, quarterly reports. You know? They used time, a lot of time. A lot of human labor and a lot of time. I'm not sure about that. What you're saying increases shore hardness like with steel. I'm not familiar with that term, so I'm not sure. Is there any value in bringing an item up to temp and shocking it by tossing it in water? Would a large piece split? Maybe. I mean, but at what point are we going to do that? For spalling? For like taking a boulder and making it into smaller pieces to work with? I'm just not sure at what point in the process that would be helpful. And if it would allow you to control anything better than using percussion. Merlin floated those stones from Wales. Yeah, they are from Wales, some of them, right? That's crazy. That's a long way. That is a long way to go. You got to believe that bringing some of that, was it the blue stone that came from Wales? That some aspect of that process that was more about the process than about the result. I think. Like simply the act of moving those stones was like a meaningful social or spiritual act. Oh, that's a nice thinning flake. I didn't keep it together, but look, it took all of that. That was beautiful. Very good thinning flakes. So where am I in Callahan's stages of thinning? I'm still working on this. Stage 3, whoops, sorry. Stage 3, primary thinning. So by the end of stage 3, it should have more of a regular shape, and it will be a lot thinner and lenticular in cross section. I don't normally refer to this as I'm working, but it's just kind of interesting that, as I've been explaining, to think about, well, where am I in some sort of idealized process, which he documented. Very methodical thinker when it came to this stuff. Okay. That one ended in a hinge. Man, I wish I could find my pencil. Right here. Right here. So that differs from a step fracture in that this actually scoops in and then comes back a little bit. That's usually a result of me not hitting it hard enough. The force kind of dissipated. But it's close to the end of the piece, and I should be able to get rid of that either from the other side or from the end without too much of a fuss. Not ideal when that happens, but at least in this case, not the end of the world. In fact, I just got rid of all of it. I'll show you. So, here's my hinge right here. What I decided to do was try and take a hit from up here. Boom. And that took off the entire hinge. In fact, you can see the hinge right there along the edge of the piece. So that one hit, and I got rid of my whole problem, cleaned up that side. Before it got worse. I had an opportunity there. I was like, well, if I hit from that side, maybe that flake will carry and take some of it off. And I got kind of lucky. It took all of it off. So I'm already a lot closer to Callahan's drawing. Still pretty thick by his standard. But I would say I'm not done with what he calls stage 3. Just lining up my next hits here. This end is... I'm not sure if I'll be able to preserve this end, but I'd like to, just because this is the longest bit. Hey Samantha, welcome back. Working my piece down little by little, explaining the process as questions come up. Now I'm kind of tempted to work to Callahan's drawing there. There's no reason I can't, really. I do wish I could have met him. Okay, got a little step fracture in here. It's unfortunate, but it's so close to the edge that probably as I continue to flake and trim, I can get right up next to it and knock it off without making it worse. But I need to be mindful of it and not hit right into it. I just need to be deliberate about it when I get to it. Let's see. Okay, grab a slightly smaller tool to just trim some of the edges. Make the edge heights a little bit more uniform and conducive to my next round of thinning flakes. Just little trimming flakes to get things more under control. Wow, look at all those rockets. Gotta love a good rocket. Freehand hit here. Just taking a look at that little problem spot. I still kind of just need to steer clear of it for a little while as I work on other areas. Give you an updated close-up. Let's look at this is primary thinning. I'm on this line, so I'm slowly creeping my way up to that right there. Getting pretty close. I might be a little thick. That's fine because I can keep going. And he's got his work to a bit more of a point. So I'm on track. I can just basically do another round. And hopefully I'll kind of be at what he shows there. I don't know why I'm doing this. It's just an exercise that I just started doing for no good reason. Just sort of working to his... It's kind of a, what does he call it? Stages of manufacture, percussion reduction of bifacial stone tools. All right, now I'm pretty well set up to take another round of flakes. Oh yeah, talk about thinning flakes. He even shows you, the sizes that you're hoping for. And that's a very appropriate thinning flake. It's a pretty thick flake because really my goal here is to reduce a lot of mass, get this thing thinner. Oh, even better. Even better. So I hit from here. I don't know how to do this without my hands being in the way. So that flake went from one side just not quite to the other. And that helped a lot. Yeah. Okay, try and put one right next to that one. Yes, indeed. It's always tough getting the light so you can see them there. 1, 2, 3. I might be able to do a small one up here and a small one down here. Nothing too ambitious, just well, that was great. That one went all the way across, and then just one up here at the top. Good. I'll sneak in one more little one. Okay, that whole side turned out pretty well. You can switch to a smaller tool and do some of the in between the little triangles that are left between the larger hits. And that's gonna take off much smaller flakes, but they're gonna want to travel along the triangles that were left between the larger hits. So it's sort of just a second round of smaller ones. So I just did this whole edge, and you see how flat this side is now, because that's where all the flakes just came from. So I need to work on a different edge, maybe even the different side. Let's see, scoping things out here. Oops. A bit more off the top than I expected. No, not too bad though. All right, I got rid of a bunch of my problem there. I'm gonna hit from the other direction. I got rid of all of my problem. Yay! So that I had that step fracture in here. And I basically brought this edge closer to it. And then I took one flake running from this way and another from this way. And that pretty much got rid of all that extra messiness and section that I needed to desperately avoid. So I no longer need to avoid that section. I got rid of it. Yeah. Now let's take a look at Callahan's stage 3. Okay. Stage 3. Right here. And so I am roughly right there. And let's see the profile proportions. I mean, relative to its height, I think that's about right. It looks like I can work on making this lower end a little bit more, a little less chunky, a little bit more lenticular. So let me just knock off a couple flakes down here. This is kind of a fun exercise. Not one I would have been able to do last year. For a couple of reasons. First of all, I'd never heard of Eric Callahan last year, but, well, maybe I had, but I didn't have this book, that's for sure. And I've done a lot of practicing in the last year, so I think it's starting to show a little bit. Cool. Got my stage 3 thinning, primary thinning. Done. That's cool. Taking a look at stage 4 here. Stage 4 secondary thinning. Bevel platforms to below center. Connect flake scars in center. So the flakes need to go across the middle line. Generalized shape. Okay, more of the same, but I'm really hoping, according to Callahan's scheme, I'm really hoping to get my flakes to go past to the center or past. So the ones from this side, to there, and the ones from this side to there. And that way I'm not leaving a thick, weird spine in the middle of the piece. So you got a few random places where I could even this out a little bit with just a few discriminating hits. Okay. Yep, that's good. That's also good. All right. Let's see, does he give it a name at this stage? Yeah. So, Acheulean hand axe character. So, in prehistoric times, not necessarily this scale, more like that scale, or more like that scale, is an Acheulean hand axe. But these stages apply at different scales. So we could be talking about a tool that's this big, or we could be talking about a tool this big, and it's all relative. All right, so now I need to make sure my edges are below the center line where I'm going to take flakes, a braid, and then try to make flakes that are long enough to connect or overlap in the middle. So I've got to decide which faces I'm going to work on. Okay, on this side, I think I'm going to work on this. So I'm going to raise this platform up so when I flip it over, it will be low. It's weird, terminology-wise, when I'm working on it, I'm raising it, but really, I'm going to flip it over so that it's low. So it can get confusing when you're speaking of it. Am I raising or lowering the platforms? Well, at this very moment, I'm knocking off flakes that's making this edge higher, but I'm not going to work it this way. I'm going to turn it over, so now it's lower. It's somehow awkward to say right now that I'm lowering it, but ultimately that is what I'm trying to do. All right, so that side, pretty good. I'll be taking flakes like that. I wonder if I should just go ahead and do that. Yeah, probably. A few more little places. Okay. Now I'm going to braid well. I need to take a little flake. This looks like it's going to be a little too strong, so I need to take a little weakening flake off here. Okay, good. So I've got this edge here all prepared to take flakes that way. Below the center line, well abraded. And now I'm going to be trying for flakes that are to or beyond the center. We're down to 2 diehards. 7:30. I had better think about wrapping this up, but why don't I do a section of flakes down here, see how it goes before wrapping it up, and I can return to this tomorrow. Okay, it's to the center. Yeah, just barely. Farther would be better. I'm going to move this way a little bit and try for the same thing. Yep, very shallow here, but it did get to the center. This side's a bit flat, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get them to carry. Also to the center. Yeah, there's not enough convexity on this side. That's my poor planning, but they are carrying far enough. Yep, that one got past the center here. And one or two more up here. Yep. Little messy there at the end. Okay, that's a nice row of flakes. for my primary thinning. No, secondary thinning. Little update. Working on my secondary thinning. It's basically trying to get the piece considerably thinner. For new people, I started off with a Dacite spall, about this big. So I've maintained a lot of the length while reducing the the thickness considerably. Moving through the different stages of lithic reduction, or what did he call it? Percussion reduction of bifacial stone tools. Making it thinner by hitting it. Those are fancy words for saying making it thinner by hitting it. But I think I'm going to wind down for the day. May take a few more hits here and there just to feel like I've got it to a good stopping point. Looking for good opportunities here. I'm going to need a smaller billet. I'm going to hold it freehand so that I can get to some hard to access spots near the tip here. And support it well with my fingers. This goes like this. Oh, good. That was a good shot right there. Okay. All right. Yeah, got some width off that tip there, which is good. Bring it a little bit more in line with the rest of the piece. Here we go. And that's the stage I'm going for right here. And if we look at the edge, I'm certainly as thin proportionally, I'd say. I might even be between these two stages. Yeah, I think I am. There's a way to conceive of that, like its width, the ratio of its width to its height And at different stages, it's common to be at different ratios. It's not necessary to know. It's interesting, and if you're kind of thinking about it. Hey, Michael, thank you so much. I'm glad you enjoy these. I'm just winding down for the day, but I appreciate your feedback, and of course, I appreciate your support in whatever form it comes. So thank you so much for the comment. I didn't really have a plan when I started doing these about 3 weeks ago. But, you know, I'm going to be flint napping anyway. And I like talking. So figured I might as well hop onto the stream and see if anybody cares. I really appreciate comments like that. Just it's good to know. Yeah, I got myself a nice somewhere between a trade blank, they might call it. So this is you know, in some cultures, you take a piece to about this level of done, because it's very light relative to carrying around the original rock, and you might trade for it. Or if your need is stronger, you would go ahead and finish this off into a spear point, a knife, an arrowhead, whatever it is you needed. But I'm happy with that, and it was fun following along with Professor Eric Callahan's stages of manufacture for percussion reduction of bifacial stone tools. This is a wonderful little spiral-bound collection of his drawings and diagrams. I'll show you the cover in a moment. It is just called Primitive Technology, Practical Guidelines for Making Stone Tools, Pottery, Basketry, etc. the Aboriginal Way, by Professor Eric Callahan. It's not a very thick book, but it is so concise and full of helpful drawings. You know, it's like the one book. It's not even all about flint napping, but just the handful of pages about flint napping are so helpful that I keep it out here in the shop with me. So I believe you can still find this online. Just a spiral-bound book, a mere 24 pages, but they're just chock full of different information. I recall some weeks ago someone asked me how would I haft the stone axe that I have started, and I said, oh, there's so many ways. All of these are ways that you could haft a stone axe. So you see what I mean? The pages are just, I mean, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, then this 24-page booklet is worth a lot. So I do recommend it. Well, for those of you who have hung with me here to the bitter end this evening, I appreciate it as always. And of course, encourage you to subscribe if you haven't. Like, watch some of my long-form videos. I promise that new one's coming out soon. I've just had a couple little hang-ups. I expect to be live streaming more flint napping practice as the week goes on, about the same time of day. So I hope you all have a wonderful remainder of your day, and I appreciate you tuning in and spending some time with me. And I will see you again very soon, my friends. Be good to yourselves. Take care of yourselves. Take care of others. And until next time, this is Doug North. I'll see you soon.